Hello and welcome to Between the Lines. On this show, you will hear about and from lesser-known Canadian authors and writers who, for whatever reason, have remained under the radar of traditional publishers and publishing houses. If it has something to do with writing or the writing process, you are going to hear a discussion about it here. I'm your host, Randy Lacey, and I encourage you to grab your bevy of choice, get comfy, and get ready to go between the lines. People come into writing in several different ways. For some, it was a teacher at school handing out a writing assignment. For others, it may have been by reading and wondering if they might be able to write. Every writer has started their writing journey on a different path. Each writer's journey will be different, yet similar. But one thing all writers have in common is a different destination. On this episode, I will be speaking with Cindy Bailey. Hello, Cindy, and welcome to Between the Lines.
Hi, Randy. It's good to be chatting with you.
Well, you say that now, but by the time we're done...
Thank you for inviting me.
You're most welcome. Now, rather than have me talk a few minutes about your hobbies, your marriage, children, etc., I'm sure the listeners would rather enjoy hearing it from your mouth and your words. So with that said, I'm going to yield the microphone to you.
Thanks, Randy. As I said before, it's great to be here with you and chatting in person. I grew up in the West End of Toronto, and I now have lived in almost every corner of the city, maybe not always on purpose. So I've lived in the city, I've lived in the woods on 28 acres, and I now live in a small town. So I've lived city, rural, and urban. I was with my husband for 23 years. We lived in a home he built on 28 acres in the woods in Muskoka. He passed in 2012 from pancreatic cancer when our daughter was 14. Our daughter is now completing her interior design studies. I'm so proud of her. She's worked and studied along the way. My mother passed last year at 97, and she had dementia for a number of years. I was fortunate to get her into a care home just a bit before my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and passed. Over the years, I've taken part in some writing workshops and writing interest courses. I've written short pieces, but I never wrote a book until recently. I found kind of a permission to stay home. And that's when I really, really buckled down and started writing. I took a course online, and it also had a workshop aspect and a Facebook group and writing accountability partner. And I enjoyed that, and I really buckled down and scheduled time over this last year. It had the course had a mindful bent, so I didn't feel I could take a dry, course from college or university. I just thought that would open up my creative flow better, to ease me and make me comfortable. So I just felt that I needed to be inspired and present, mindful, and open for the writing to come. My daughter is highly supportive of my writing and thinks there are people who would find it helpful reading my story. I have other interests. I really enjoy walking a lot. Now that sounds a bit boring, but it's so great if you're trying to get an idea. That's where you can get some inspiration or work through an issue in your writing. Just take your mind off everything and you'll come back with a solution, free your mind. Mm-hmm. It's so good for your mind and your body, let's face it. I did stand-up routine. I wrote, I plotted out my stand-up routine. I got some good laughs from the audience, and they seemed interested and came up and complimented me. I kind of think they might have been complimenting, thank you for leaving the stage. Anyways, it went well, and I do get good rave reviews, Randy, during my karaoke career.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyways, that's about it for me. I have favorite authors that I admire, and we can get into that.
Yeah.
That's about me in a nutshell.
That's a rather big nutshell. So your stand-up, what's the worst thing that people approach you with? Is it like, tell me a joke or make me laugh?
No, I did my stand up and I went and years ago I was going to go and it was fairly new and they had just moved from the community center on Church Street, to a Yorkville location. And I phoned up and they had an amateur night and I almost went and did Yuck Yucks, but, and I just did the one show. Randy, I aced that. So that was my career. But they were laughing. And one thing I said, which I won't say on here because the subject, matter. And I could hear people go, oh, that's really funny. But after my little act, which was supposed to be apparently 3 minutes or 2 minutes, after about 12 minutes, I got off the stage. And it seemed to flow. And they laughed throughout, not continually, and it wasn't like laughing at me. And they came up and complimented me after. So I was like, wow, how much booze are they serving these people?
Right?
So,
do they not know the limits? I guess before we get into any of the questions within question period, the one thing I'd like to address with you is what your definition is of being a writer as opposed to an author.
Gee, Randy, I really am not sure. And I had to look it up because, I'm just developing my book and it's, I thought, boy, if I go on this podcast with Randy and he asks me, how can people find me? And I'm like, find me? No, please don't find me, as some writers, will be like. And I looked up, I thought, will I make a page and am I a writer or am I an author? So I looked up the definition and obviously they said an author is someone that's published. I think, and it sounds more distinguished apparently, but I think that writer, I feel like writer is a good one. I wouldn't mind being an author, someone knows me that I'm an author. I think that saying writer sounds more current and like you're doing it. It's perpetual. An author, that just sounds like you have published and that's a great thing. And that wouldn't we all like to be an author for a writer? But I think I'll use the word writer perhaps.
That's a fair assessment. But the one thing that both author and writer have in common is that they write.
Yes.
So there is no distinction.
There is no difference.
So I just wanted to get that out of the way for your benefit.
Thank you. I think that the definition I was seeing is maybe dated because now writing is something that's not something that's it's a very familiar. We all can sit and write, but people all couldn't sit and write years ago because maybe they didn't have any paper or pens and they definitely didn't have a laptop, so, it wasn't accessible.
Well, even blog writers, are they really published? Well, they're on a blog site, but it all comes down to definition, right? And I mean, the scope of definitions of writing and across the spectrum. But anyway, first question, what is your philosophy about writer's block?
So far, I haven't had writer's block because, I kind of wonder if it's that the person is not motivated at that time or it needs to be forced. And maybe that's an honest thing for someone that's doing it in a professional sense, that they have to get a column out at a certain time. That might be pressure. What I think is then write something else. Just pick something else to write. Write about the pen you're holding or your glass of water. Just keep writing. And I think that the more you get your ideas out, even jotting them down on paper can keep those ideas flowing. Get it out of your head and onto paper. And so I'm suspicious about writer's block. So I'm not really sure. I mean, it's highly valid to the person that's having it. I just haven't had it yet because I feel like, just write something, just start writing. And what I do is I try to set myself up for my writing. I say, tomorrow at X o'clock, whatever it is, in the afternoon or the morning, I can switch it up. I'm going to sit and I'm going to write. No, I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. I do it until I don't feel like doing it or if I have to go somewhere else. I kind of think that you need to take a break to prevent writer's block. go for a walk, do something that interests you. I also think that, if you remove yourself totally from it, then and relax, get quiet, some other ideas can come. So I just think if you're writing and you're struggling, just get away from your writing, as if the same idea as when we write. If we're going to write a poison pen letter, we're going to put that thing away. We're going to put that sucker in the drawer for a few days, a week, 2 weeks. So we're going to bring it out and edit it. So the same thing in writing. Maybe you're not mentally blocked. Maybe you're not having writer's block, because part of the writing process to me is the whole thought process that we're having all the time, where we're kind of in the back of our head thinking, what am I going to do about that? How do I get this guy kidnapped on paper? Like, what do I do about that? Yep. In the strangest moments, an idea will come to you. It could be a new idea or a solution or something that maybe didn't occur to you, or a great idea. And of course, I either want to run and write it out at the time, or if I'm not able to, I'm going to jot down any little thing and then pull that little slip of paper out and kind of develop that idea or that thought, but I want to get it on paper so I can remember it.
It would seem that the consensus through all the people that I've interviewed so far, the consensus has been, if you get to a point where you're stuck in your writing, step away, but continue to do something creative. As long as you remain within that creative flow, it'll work itself out. Remain creative, I think, has been the overarching theme throughout this question with everybody that I've asked, is just to remain creative. Would you agree?
Maybe writer's block means at the moment you actually are finished. You just don't have any more to say, mm-hmm. and then something will come to you if you just don't panic, right? So I think I don't want to know about writer's block. I hope I never have writer's block.
Well, I agree with you. Yeah. All right. Next question then. Where do you find your inspiration to write?
So far, just about anywhere. You're out and about and some little thing can happen. Maybe you go to the, store to buy a bottle of wine or something and you have a little pleasant exchange, or maybe I go for a coffee and an idea will come to me, or a memory, or, or just an object, anywhere, any time. I don't really have a good formula for that. I think, getting quiet and having some, I'm going to say the word mindful again. I just think the more you can relax yourself and feel rested, the better you can work. And I think that you can get ideas from anywhere. I mean, if I'm on my walk, for instance, I might see a cloud or a tree. I might see a dog that brings a story to me, and I find I make a little story up around some little thing. I'm out and about, and I'm like, oh, I got to write that down. That's a good idea, and it might not be a good idea once you start writing it.
Yeah.
But I think if you just start to, don't force yourself to see stuff. Stuff will just come to you, Just trust in the process of inspiration. We don't have to look for inspiration. It finds us. And as I'll show you later with the book I'm writing, inspiration just came. I didn't ask for it. I was surprised totally,
So do you think inspiration is something that you can hone, like you hone your writing skill?
I think that's a good point, Randy. I don't know. I think the more inspiration and creative moments you experience and continue to do regularly, the more comes. I think the same with art. If you're doing you're continually painting or drawing, you'll get more ideas for more creative. Mm-hmm. I think it's if you're not open to it, maybe it doesn't come. Maybe some inspiration and ideas, maybe they're just floating around in the ether and we pick them up, Maybe they're there for everyone. I don't know the answer. I'm going to go somewhere someday and find out, Randy.
Well, when you find out, communicate it to the rest of us. That's a good answers there. Is there a certain time of day where you find yourself more productive? And if so, why do you suppose that is?
at first when I thought of that question, I thought of one answer, and I'm going to give you that answer. And then now I think it's twofold. So number one, my best time of day is right after I get up and I've eaten my breakfast. And I don't have to shower and everything. I just, and I've told myself the night before or that week, I'm going to get up and I'm going to write. So because I'm quiet and it's quiet and it might even still be dark, and everybody's quiet, everybody's asleep, I like to write early in the morning. Now, but when we look at productivity, then I think I do some of my best productivity as far as thinking and getting ideas away from my writing. And that would be later in the day. And so I'm asking people to not discount that part of the process. We can't just sit down and start getting a bunch of ideas where we're away from our writing and that we're doing some other activity. And I don't even think it has to be a creative activity. I think it could be walking or playing a sport or shopping or going for a coffee, being with people, keeping ourselves active. And all of a sudden, a little spark of an idea will come, and it'll come out of the blue often. It'll surprise you. It'll be like, wow, where'd that come from? Or, oh, I like that idea, and jot it down. So I think that's productivity. So for me, that's my twofold answer is I like writing early in the morning before I can get any other thoughts and I've seen the internet. And then productivity also includes all the rest of our day and evening and thinking about what we're writing at a moment or getting an idea. So that's all productivity. I putting the writing away I put my writing away for 3 months. I don't care because I know there's some things I'm ready to go back and move around or work through now or add to, build.
I think a big misnomer or a misunderstanding perhaps with regards to writing is that it's thought of as writing is the actual process of sitting down and writing at length. And sometimes it's just you need that little snippet and you write it down. And that's equally as important as the big piece you write because that little piece might bring those big pieces together. Does that make sense?
Totally, Randy. So true. Exactly what I'm saying. And if we think of War and Peace, and I tell you, I tried to read that once. And if we think of War and Peace, do we really think that the guy sat down and wrote that in one sitting? Oh, come on.
No, probably not. One sitting after another, maybe.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. What's your preferred writing tool? For example, PC and software versus pen and paper versus typewriter, and why?
Well, I miss his laptop because you can just take whole sections and highlight them and move them around. You can edit easily. You can save it. It's there. But if an idea comes, and sometimes I just sit with my notebook. I'll take my notebook with me often, and honestly, the times I don't, I wish I would have. So maybe I need a tablet, maybe that's what I need go on the go. So mostly laptop, and then I like a notebook and any little piece of paper when an idea comes. So I would say have notebooks. I have a lot of notebooks because I want to keep the one book separate from this book, and notes and stuff. Yeah.
So like a writing journal, you mean, or
I
not a journaling, like your diary, but.
Well, that would be really scary or sad. My system so far is that I have a big fat notebook and any little things to do with writing, it's in there. And I keep it like a writing log. It's very short. It's just like the date and the time frame that I wrote, how many words did I write, and then my total. And I might just add a little note. I reworked this section or something, but it's mostly just keeping track of my writing, when I did it, and then anything to do in that book. And I like that, and I think I'm going to need a bigger notebook for the next time.
So it's a physical notebook.
Right, yeah, not a laptop notebook. It's an actual lined coil notebook. I like that. And then I keep all my little notes in there. And when I'm writing, I take all my little notes, little bits and snippets of paper and napkins and, serviettes, and I type it at the bottom of my manuscript, not in the body, and I start to move it inside and delete it, and then I can throw those pieces of paper out when I put them in there. So
Yeah.
I'm constantly filing those notes somewhere, and like just thinking, oh, did I put that in there? If I already got that in there, I don't want to duplicate it, and that's my process. And then moving that up into the body. So I got a lot of junk and definitions and stuff down at the bottom of my writing. And I'm always looking on the dictionary. I'll get a word and I'll look at it in the dictionary to make sure that's exactly the word that fits,
Right. Next question, number 5. Which type of writer are you? Are you a plotter, someone who plans out their novel before they write it? Are you a pantser, someone who flies by the seat of their pants, meaning there is no plan? Or C, a plantser, which is someone who is a little of both plotter and pantser.
Well, there is a chance, a slight chance at this point, that I could turn out to be a combo, like a plantser. So far, I'm a pantser because I have a few ideas for books, but because I had 2 ideas, the one I never knew I had, I just started writing it. And I thought I was going to sit down and write a different book. So after a lot of thousands of words in the book, just free writing, but also editing as I went, I thought, for the purpose of the exercise, I'm going to now, with my other book, it's a totally different type of book, I'm going to plot that out and make an outline. And I'm going to try and develop the characters. I'm going to do the outline because I thought it was important that I knew how, because obviously we have to know that our book or our manuscript, our story is going somewhere, and how is it going to turn out? So I feel very, inherent that I'm just a pantser, which is funny to me because who wants to be a pantser? But you know what? It works for Steve, for Stephen King. I wasn't trying to be a pantser. I didn't know. And so Randy, I don't know, but it looks like I'm a pantser. I don't want to be, because I like the idea that you're so great, where your story's going and everything, and but you can always be a plotter. After the fact, I'm a pantser, and maybe I'm going to have to make my book work into an outline, and it sort of is. I liked the idea, and I feel very good and comfortable with the idea of the book taking me on a journey, a surprise journey, not a horror story, a surprise journey of how to get there, and where are we going, and I'm just so fascinated so far with the one I'm on right now, so fascinated and grateful. When I think that, I'm sort of grateful I'm a pantser so far.
Well,
Yeah.
that's good. 2 questions just arose from hearing your response. One, I want to go back to the question about, you said you prefer PC, and is there a specific software that you use, like Trelby or any of these other writing programs?
No, not so far. And my reasoning is, I've used a lot of software over my years, just in jobs and work. And I had to self-teach myself everything. And now, partly what I use is just any word processing, because I don't want anything interrupting me or changing my mindset or the road I'm on. It's almost, no, I don't think I like it. I haven't even explored any of those software packages. I make sure that my spelling and my editing, I'm not an editor. Let's say that. I don't want to put editors down. I know that they have a bigger job than the writers realize.
Try it with these eyes.
That's for sure. Yeah. So Randy, lots of people, from an editor's perspective, they would think we all see equally the same as that. As writers, we don't know how to write for the audience, perhaps. There's so much to it. Are you building your character? No. So far, I'm okay. So I think some of those software things sound really great, and I should probably explore it. But so far, I'm not wanting to go that route. I want, although unless it helps the format, unless it's something, maybe that's going to be something, maybe it prompts you that way. I don't like the idea. I think I want it to be authentically my voice and what's coming out naturally.
So with your response to that go back question, come back a little bit forward now with regards to being a plantser. Have you heard of a program called the Snowflake Method?
Boy, I don't think I have, although it sounds vaguely familiar. I don't think so. Snowflake, I'm writing it down.
You might want to write that down and YouTube it.
Okay.
It's actually a very good program to help you plot, but it's also very good to help you, be a pantser.
Great.
So I've been using it for a few years, and I mean it's a really neat program. But anyway, enough about me. Question number 6. When you write, do you prefer silence or do you have something playing in the background? If so, what is it?
I like silence, or maybe my sound machine, which I haven't used for writing yet, could have a very soft sound to it. I don't like to listen to any music. I like silence. I like looking out my window. It's okay if the birds are out there. That's great. I will take a break and then I'll listen to a podcast or watch something, have a little break. I'm pretty good with just silence.
Really? So there are a lot of people who listen to music and some who prefer silence. And I think, so far throughout the episodes of this podcast, it's been mostly silence. And that blows me away because
there may be times when I will, have music playing. It hasn't happened yet. Maybe when I get to a different section, maybe once I get to a certain place. Maybe we'll see. So far, I'm just Mrs. Silence.
That's everybody has their own particular way. We'll move on to the next question then. Is there anything about your writing journey so far that you wish you had done differently?
Well, we can't really go back and change anything, but I guess I see the value in that I should have been writing all the time, regularly, longer, and letting people read it. I've rounded up some people, that are interested in reading my stuff, and I'm asking them just read it like it's a story, don't read it as if it's connected to me, just read it. So I think having written sooner, longer, always. I don't know why I didn't write for a number of years.
Mm-hmm. So typically there's 7 questions that I will pose to every guest on the show. What they don't know is there is an 8th question that they don't know about. And this is now time for that 8th question. And so for you, with regards to you, I'm going to ask you, has social media helped you grow as a writer?
I have to say yes, because, I've taken, certainly not just in regular posts and comments that people are making in general on social media. Then there was the private writers page to go with that. Mm-hmm. Also, I do pay attention to the prompts that you put out, mm-hmm. and other groups. I'm going to join I'm going to join some author groups in my own area. And I think I've listened to some of the publishers, the traditional publishers have had evenings or talks with authors presenting their book. And I've really enjoyed those. So yes, I think this is the greatest opportunity because I also have listened to real famous authors who are on Facebook regularly, John Grisham and Linwood Barkley. They are very open to giving you insights. You ask them a question and they can answer it. They're very open with their time, which is really a gift. Mm-hmm. And we're very fortunate. They're real people and we're able to read their books and there they are. So I think, yes, I think it's helped me develop as a writer. And to be honest, there's a lot of people that might grow up with a home life where they don't have options presented for things to do in their older, in adulthood, and they don't know that an author is even a thing, and they might find out, well, it's just real people writing. I want to do that. I feel like that's me, So I think it's been great. Yes, I think it's been great to develop a person as an author or writer for themselves or to publish. Yeah.
I think one of the hidden blessings of social media is, especially for writers or creatives, is that the social media, the social networking that can come as a result of it, because you're essentially putting yourself out there for potentially thousands of people to see and get to know. So when you start contributing more and people see it more, you're allowing yourself to become seen and therefore giving yourself an opportunity to be successful.
And I think too, when I look at the famous authors who don't have to be on there, my favorite author, right, doesn't have to be on there. And it says to me, this person, they're not writing their next book to get more famous. They're writing it because they're interested in what they want to say. And they have something they want to say and they're going to write it. And that's a very down to earth concept for us all, just to be real people, so I like that.
So you keep talking about a book. So we've never established what genre or what style you write in.
Well, I'm discovering what genre, and style I write in and what voice I use. And I think I can, I do think I can use a different voice depending on the genre or style. The book I thought that I was going to sit and write, that's been inside me for many years, at least 10 years, is a cottage read, an easy, humorous, fun-filled cottage read of your nasty cottage neighbor. But that's not the book, unfortunately, that I sat down and wrote. I wrote the outline for that now, and I will write that. I'm kind of writing them both at the same time. But the one that really took over and surprised me, and I've written 38,000 words now, is a book that goes back to starts back in my childhood and kind of goes full circle. Did you want me just to talk about that now, Randy?
Sure, if you'd like to. This is about you.
Thanks. Okay, so now, as I mentioned, I'm currently 38,000 words into a book, and I need to, fill it in more, fill out the character development better, and give them a bit of a voice. I had no idea, it was news to me that I was going to write that, and so I've got a note here, and I'm going to look at it for a second. So the book I began writing was about the resilience of a child living with trauma, unacknowledged grief, and coming to terms with long-lasting effects of childhood trauma. And in my book, I show a child's daily struggles growing up in a chaotic home and beginning a new life in a small town. Through the story, we learn to be grateful for the love we receive, to see the love, to be able to see the love that we have had. So we know and understand that we have had love in our life and that we still do. Through the story, we learn to be grateful for the love we receive and to see the love. I repeated myself there. To find advocates and the survival of spirit over trauma. Events that were stored away to me, all of a sudden they came back. I had no idea. Later in life, facing a life-changing event, it became clear when I looked back, not only did I have a guardian angel, but my life had gone full circle. And even at the time, when you're somewhere, Randy, and you're having kind of a deja vu, it's almost a deja vu feeling. you don't really put your finger on it sometimes. And that's what it was like for me until I looked back a few years later at that moment, which was clear in my brain. I didn't realize I'd gone full circle. And until I wrote into the book many thousand words, I didn't realize why. And so in the book, I explain what happened there. And it turned out I'd returned to a pivotal place in my childhood. And the book is, it's got inspirational lessons for the reader. And I was just blown away by one thing I wrote, and I'm like, who said that? and so I was unbelievable. I'd phone my daughter up and be excited and say, wow, I just can't believe what I just wrote. We're probably all writers feel that way. Oh my goodness, I just wrote, 3 pages. We're happy about that. The book, a little background is that my dad, he was shell shocked. He returned from WW2, World War II, early after enlisting too young. He only went away for a few months, but I was told that he was completely changed. He had addictions and other serious health issues, and that created a very chaotic family life. And at one point, unbeknownst to myself, we were taken to a small town, and that's where I am now, in that same small town. But anyways, we started school, and I had no idea that, we were transported. Nobody told me. I didn't understand. I thought we were just visiting my aunt as normal, as we normally did. So as I I did form an outline, as I said, for that other book, the cottage type read. It surprised me about the ending on that one too when I did the outline. So this one that I've actually been writing, I like the way it's carrying me and it's developing itself with ideas. And I really think there's a lot of value in not stressing totally about the direction. The direction, like characters, it will find you. And, it's no issue. Just keep writing and you move it around. So what, Anyways, and I stressed over how I would tell the story. Would I write it from my point of view, third person? I just started writing it out. And that's my recommendation. Just write, do something,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like my writing to touch people. My daughter says that she really feels that it can help people, the book I'm writing. And, I thought of having a pen name, to be undercover, but whatever. So my goal, my comfort level is a traditional publisher, but maybe that's not their comfort level. They're focusing on their little stable of writers. The reason I feel like that is because I want this to reach people. It's got PTSD, which is shell shock. It's got childhood PTSD. It's got addiction. It's got grief. I lost a little friend. It's got unacknowledged grief. It's got a lot of stuff in it. And I think it's important for a lot of people that it can resonate with it would help them, I think. And, I haven't finished it just yet, but it's almost 40,000 words in.
It'll finish itself, but you don't have books. Have you published any stories or that we can find? Articles?
No, I didn't. I wrote some stories. I took night school classes and wrote stories. I wrote some on my very short, and I couldn't even call them a short story, little pieces. For me, I thought some of them were profound, and maybe they weren't. And I'm wondering if I won't include little snippets or little pieces of those that I've still got on hand as they fit into a book. As not a compilation, but example, in this book, there is a little short story I wrote that would suit and shows insight into why I wrote that story. Once we read the book that I'm writing, why I wrote that and had that perspective. And as a kid, I was there was 4 of us, 4 kids. I was taken out of the home a lot and farmed out to not neighbors, but friends of the family, where I was treated really well. This part of the story is not the bad part. That's the good part. And that was a fortune for me, because that's a godsend. And that was just something that I think that they were told they had to do, take this kid out of there, So I didn't really put all the stuff together until I started writing. And maybe my recommendation to people is to write, because you don't know what you're going to figure out, and it's better just to get it out and write it.
Absolutely. You don't have a website yet, and you just created an author page on Facebook. Is that correct? But it's not published yet?
Yeah, I started a Facebook page now. It's called Cindy L is in Larry, Cindy L Bailey Writes. The reason I put the L in there is because people will be like, why don't you get the L out of there? But I'm like,
I see what you did there.
If I'm not a good writer, they'll be, I wish you'd get the L out of there. But there is another Cindy Bailey, or there might be a few. And so that's why I had to do that. And I also thought, well, gee, if I'm going to be on this podcast and talking about my book, and right from the beginning, I felt very more than comfortable. I just felt I knew that I was writing this book and I was going to publish. It's a real book. And I knew that I had to get a presence going and discussion and stuff. So knowing I was doing the podcast, and you might say, Cindy, where can they find you? And I was like, well, they can't find me at all. They can find me anywhere. I'm an invisible writer. But anyways, I made this page, this Facebook page, and I'll try to publish it shortly before anybody listening to the podcast forgets about me. And it'll be an interesting journey that we can all go on together, and maybe I'll collect some people interested. And I think it's important for the people that are just developing as writers to understand that they're going to have to promote their book, and they're going to have to talk about their work, and that's a reality, and social media is a big part of that.
And that is partially why I put this podcast together. I'm not looking to pad established writers, portfolios with anything. I'm looking to give the lesser known Canadian authors and writers an opportunity to have a spotlight. And so, you certainly fit into that, as well as everybody else that I've interviewed. And so I'm just grateful that people are responding to it. So for now, they can find you, in some writing groups on Facebook. Your book, though, you do want to complete it. You do want to finish it. Do you have a timeline that you'd like to see that done?
I really felt comfortable that I was going to be finishing it this fall that just happened. Mm-hmm. But after, when the summer came, I put it away and rested it. I would like to see it done this year. I would like to see it done. I'm at the point where I have some I'll call them victims. They seem to be willing participants. I said, about the book, and they said, oh, I'd like to read it. And so I do have 5 or 6 people that I've lined up that I'm ready for them to start reading it. I have a young woman too that she has taken writing, and I'm not sure what type of publisher how she's working with, and I'm not with them or anything, and I may never be, but she's someone that we know in our world, and that she would be interested in reading it as a help. It helps her with her skills, but it's very helpful and a good offer for me. That would be why I'd have her read it. But because of the subject matter, and I'm kind of I'm happy to, I'm from the city too, and I'm from the small town and city. I don't really want people connecting me in, say, a small environment with that story that I'm presenting. But to be honest, that is the story. That's what happened. I look at it like that's a kid. That's what happened. So I'd rather them read the story for the value itself, not like oh, that happened to her, And so for that part, that's one of the reasons I was thinking of a pen name. So I'm thinking I'm highly ready to get the book and get it out there when it's done. I just think I have a little more reworking to do. I took where I had the beginning, and I really like that section. And I thought, no, I think that this has to be the beginning. And I moved it totally around. And, who knows how often that happens. And I watch authors, and I'm wondering what they mean on our author groups about they announce I'm finished my first draft, and so I don't know if they've just spit out 40,000 words or 50,000 words and never edited it, or because for me that's like 38,000 words of edited words. I've gotten rid of, here's 12 words I'll never need again. So that interests me. I don't know where I am in that part of the process, but I definitely have something there with what I've got.
Yeah, there are certainly some different schools about that. Just write, finish your first draft, and then edit. And some people are, no, I edit as I write.
And I love that idea. I'm enamored and impressed that I want to be that person that just sits and writes, any old words, or maybe they're not any old words, maybe their stuff flows. I feel my stuff flows, but I just can't help myself to the degree that I wish I could. I have an editing disease. I just have to keep going back and editing it, and that's just me, and I see that. So I'm Mrs. Edit.
So you're saying you suffer from edititis?
Yes. I suffer from edititis. Big time. Yeah, big time. And I don't feel so far, I don't have a fear or feel so far that, oh no, I edited that and I think I should have left it in. I wonder what it was. No, I think that it needed to go, what I got rid of.
And there's another school, because a lot of people, what they edit out, they put somewhere else for later.
I like, if it's got to go, it's going, but I not to say that I don't have my old versions. I have my old versions.
Yeah.
But I think that the version I have is, I'm not grieving over those parts that I took out. That feels good, if you can say it, and that's another thing I struggle with. Like, if you can say it in 38,000, 40,000 words, why does it have to be 50,000, But I do see some parts I need to fill in. Like, I started better character development and social, economic type things, like, so people could I could paint the better picture for them, about the times.
So the last thing I'm going to give to you here is, do you have any advice for anybody listening about writing or anything in general pertaining to writing?
If you can enjoy writing just because you like listening to other writers, but if you have any part of you that thinks you've got a writer in you, well, then you do, and just write it. And, I think that this is an interesting interview that we're doing, because here I am, and I haven't published yet, but I'm confident I will. And then there's all parts of the journey. So just make a start, sit on a park bench and write something. There's all kinds of things to write. People they write wine bottle labels, they write, commercials. They write all kinds of songs, little things. They write little blogs. Write what feels good to you, what feels natural. Don't try to force a voice that isn't yours. And write regularly, but take a break. And in the course I took, they said, write 5 days a week and then take 2 days off. Well, maybe your 5 days is going to be in a different order. But I like the taking yourself away from it for a couple days. But if something occurs to you, then write it. There's no set formula. I would say just write, and you'll get better, and you'll feel confident in your writing. And it's like when you do a painting. I learned to sketch late in life, and it helps the painting. But hang that sucker up. And so, don't just hide your writing, and give it to someone to read. Get it read.
Absolutely. Cindy, this has been a lot of fun. I know we've been talking back and forth off camera and, Messenger and stuff like that, but this has been fun. It's been fun getting to know you, and thank you for coming on and agreeing to do this interview with me.
Well, I want to thank you too, Randy. I really enjoyed talking with you. It's nice to talk in person. Anytime, I'm here. And thank you for the interview. I enjoyed it.
You have been listening to Between the Lines. In future episodes, I will be speaking with other Canadian authors and writers. If you like what you heard, click the subscribe button to be notified of new episodes and content. Be sure to visit me at www.therandylacey.ca. Have a day. And remember, what kind is always up to you. Tune in, be inspired, and write on.